Lando definitely has an edge. We obviously would like to see Daniel much closer to Lando and have a good inter-team battle.
Now, one of the most interesting things to watch in the next season is surely going to be McLaren. The Woking-based squad isn't likely to improve a lot in performance. However, they're going to have the youngest duo of drivers on the grid, and Oscar Piastri is definitely the type of driver to give Norris a run for his money. Now that Norris has had an easy time beating Ricciardo, it comes without the reassurance that Piastri is going to be a real threat to the #1 spot in McLaren, something that Zak Brown has even spoken about. Now that McLaren is slowly but surely tearing apart, Piastri could use this to his own advantage and Norris could be out of McLaren sooner rather than later. Oscar Piastri has been involved in one of the highest anticipated dramas in Formula 1 in recent times, the Alpine fiasco. With Alonso deciding to inherit Vettel's empty seat in Aston Martin, Alpine announced that Piastri would be his replacement. But the young Aussie didn't want to accept this role, and from the start it was obvious that he has found a seat somewhere else. And in order to deny the seat from Alpine, the seat would have to be equally competitive as the one that Alpine offered, in this case, McLaren. Now that the dust has settled down and everything has been sold, Piastri is going to have an amazing challenge ahead of himself. With him winning the 2021 F2 Championship, it was very sad that he wasn't able to secure a starting seat in F1 with Alpine or any other lower performing team such as Williams. Still, fate turned out amazingly well for Piastri if he doesn't fold under pressure and manages to put Norris under huge pressure as well. Given the fact that Norris is currently in a bad relationship with McLaren and expects the team to perform well from 2025 onwards, 2024 is probably going to be a season where he's going to struggle for performance. This could be very well used by Piastri, and while many think that Norris has no chance of losing his status in McLaren, we witness exactly the same thing in Mercedes last year. Who would have thought that Russell would have outperformed Hamilton in the first season with Mercedes? Now, this is something that even Zak Brown believes, as he believes that Piastri is going to be phenomenal in his first season in McLaren. With how Norris has spoken for McLaren and how he's been related to Red Bull recently, one couldn't help but wonder whether McLaren is turning its focus to Piastri as their next prospect to win a championship for the Woking-based squad. When talking about Piastri and his future in Formula 1, especially with McLaren, Brown said, "We think Oscar is going to be a sensational racing driver. If you look at his career to date, he's won a lot of championships in his first year, which always tells you a driver is special. He's got a great mental approach to the sport. And now that we feel that Lando has a lot of experience, we feel like that we have a great blend of experience and youth. Our experience just also happens to have youth. So I think we sit here very excited with the potential of our driver lineup of Lando and Oscar for the foreseeable future." Now obviously, Piastri isn't there to be the assigned number 2 from the very start, and while Norris' self-confidence is going to be through the roof, given the fact that he beat an 8-time race winner Ricciardo in the same machinery, Piastri is going to be a whole other story for Norris. The young Brit isn't going to have it the easy way with Piastri, especially with the Australian trying to show the world that the F2 and F3 titles speak for themselves. So what should the world expect from Piastri? Obviously, he'll have an immense challenge going against Norris, with the young Brit showing that he's already a championship-worth material that needs to be moulded with the perfect car. However, he's still to score his first win, the only thing that he hasn't done in Formula 1, apart from winning a championship, obviously. Piastri could learn a lot from Norris, but the fact that the number 4 driver has spoken about not being totally satisfied with the MCL 36 and the way that it lacks a front end could turn out very well for Piastri. McLaren struggled a lot when it came to replacing Ricciardo, and while the world thought that the team did the 8-time race winner dirty, it's far from the truth. Piastri is yet to turn a wheel in Formula 1, that's a fact, but Brown believes that his racing experience of himself is enough when it comes to picking championship caliber drivers for the team's future. When asked about his racing experience and what factor did it play in picking up Piastri, Brown added, "It does, not only in choosing racing drivers, but how to work with racing drivers and also in the racing environment. I've been around a lot of racing teams. I know what great looks like. I know what not great looks like. I've been around a lot of Formula 1 teams, a lot of IndyCar teams, a lot of NASCAR teams, a lot of sports car teams. I've been around drag racing teams." But still, the future is bright and young for McLaren. One couldn't be more excited about Piastri's debut in Formula 1, especially now that he has a proper teammate that he has to prove himself against Norris. For the past 2 seasons, Norris has had it the easy way with Ricciardo, and whether that's on Ricciardo's massive drop in performance or Norris's extraordinary talent, it's in the past and it's been done. What we need to think about now is the future and how Piastri will present himself against Norris, who doesn't seem to stop anywhere near soon. Norris is well aware that Piastri is going to be a presentable challenge to him as his teammate, and when talking about the young Australian, Norris added, "I think there's always a lot of responsibility, no matter what period of time you're in. I guess being a slightly more experienced driver, then there is that little extra bit where you can refer back to previous years or previous cars and know what the weaknesses and strengths of your cars are and things like that. I don't know Oscar that well, we've spoken every now and then a couple of times and I welcomed him into the team and so on. I don't even know what his driving style is, but having 2 different drivers and the more different driving styles you can add to it, everyone's going to have a comment which is good and can really have a good impact, and the team can focus on it and things like that. So I wouldn't say it makes me any more nervous or anything." And it's always interesting to see how 2 young drivers are going to go against each other, especially when they have a lot to prove. Norris's past 2 seasons were practically a one-man show with McLaren, and that's something that the team hopes won't repeat itself in the upcoming season. The current principal of McLaren, Andrea Stella, spoke about the upcoming relationship between Norris and Piastri, as well as the biggest challenge that Piastri will face in his first season with the Woking-based squad. According to Stella, Norris would have a key influence on Piastri and his further development in the team, as he added, "I think the important point is to have continuity with Lando. He keeps the reference. It's a reference that we know very well, even because we've gone through the development of Lando together with him. It will become a frame of reference for Oscar as well, as this is not only for his performance, but also understanding the car." However, it is critical for Piastri to perform well in his first season with McLaren, primarily because if he falls behind Norris, it will eventually mean that he will be designated with a number 2 role in McLaren, which he'll be unhappy with. And with that, it would be obvious that his self-confidence and awareness would be at the lowest possible level, something that a young and prospective driver doesn't want by any means. One thing is for certain, 2 great talents are going to face each other in McLaren in 2023, and sometime in the future, one couldn't help but notice that both of these amazing drivers are going to fight for championships. If Norris doesn't withstand the pressure from Piastri, he'll likely seek another spot in another team, and one team that would be more than happy to have him is Red Bull, as the Austrian team has tried on multiple occasions in the past to get Norris to their team. So, what do you think about the potential relationship between Norris and Piastri? Do you think that Piastri is going to cause a lot of problems for the young Brit, eventually pushing him out of McLaren? Let us know in the comments down below.